Isn't it strange that Matthew Perry died at 54, and now Dr. Mark Chavez, Eric Fleming, and Kenneth Iwamasa, all of whom are accused in his death, are also 54? That's pretty wild. In this video, we'll dive into the details of the 5 people charged in connection with Matthew Perry's death. Matthew Langford Perry, an American actor, was born on August 19, 1969, in Williamstown, Massachusetts. He gained international fame for his role as Chandler Bing on the NBC sitcom Friends. Although Perry had struggled with drug addiction in the past, he had reportedly been clean for 19 months. On October 28, 2023, after playing pickleball, Perry was found face down in his pool by his assistant, who lives with him and discovered him after returning from errands. The assistant informed investigators that Perry had not been ill, had not made any health complaints, and showed no signs of recent alcohol or drug use. Perry was pronounced dead at his home in the Pacific Palisades area of Los Angeles. Matthew Perry died due to the acute effects of the anesthetic ketamine, according to the autopsy of the 54-year-old Friends actor. The Los Angeles County Department of Medical Examiner reported that Perry also drowned in the heated end of his pool, but this was considered a secondary factor in what was deemed an accidental death. Investigators learned from people close to Perry that he was undergoing ketamine infusion therapy, an experimental treatment for depression and anxiety. However, the medical examiner noted that the ketamine levels in Perry's body were consistent with those used for general anesthesia during surgery. Given that ketamine is typically metabolized within hours, the levels found in his system could not be explained by his last treatment, which occurred a week and a half earlier. The report also indicated that coronary artery disease and buprenorphine, a medication used to treat opioid use disorder, contributed to Perry's death. Post-mortem blood tests revealed high levels of ketamine, which could have elevated his blood pressure, heart rate, and dulled his breathing impulse. The presence of buprenorphine in therapeutic levels may have compounded these effects, increasing the risk of respiratory issues when combined with high levels of ketamine. Perry's coronary artery disease made him more vulnerable to the drug's effects. According to Dr. Andrew Stolbach, a medical toxicologist who reviewed the autopsy report, the amount of ketamine detected would be enough to make him lose consciousness and affect his ability to stay above water. Stolbach emphasized that using sedative drugs in a pool or hot tub, especially when alone, is extremely risky and in this case proved fatal. Ketamine is a powerful anesthetic approved by U.S. health regulators for surgical use. In recent years, it has gained attention as an experimental treatment for various psychiatric conditions, including depression, anxiety, and chronic pain. While not officially approved for these uses, doctors are permitted to prescribe ketamine off-label if they believe it could benefit their patients, and numerous clinics across the U.S. offer ketamine infusions for these conditions. His castmates, like many of his friends, family, and fans, were stunned by his death and paid him loving tribute. Perry was open about discussing his struggles with addiction dating back to his time on Friends. "I loved everything about the show, but I was struggling with my addictions, which only added to my sense of shame," he wrote in his 2022 memoir. "I had a secret and no one could know." Perry's addiction began after a jet ski accident in 1997 when he became addicted to Vicodin. That eventually led to alcohol abuse, so much so that he was often hungover at work. In 2000, he was hospitalized with pancreatitis due to alcohol abuse. The actor recalled often shaking and sweating on set afterward while going through detox. The season 6 finale of Friends, the one with the proposal, aired in May 2000. The season 7 premiere, the one with Monica's Thunder, aired 5 months later. However, the storyline picked up in the same day, causing fans to notice how much Perry's appearance had changed during the hiatus. Although he finally asked for help the next year, he still had a long road to recovery. In 2022, Perry candidly discussed his ups and downs in his memoir, Friends, Lovers, and the Big Terrible Thing. On the August 14, 2024, 5 individuals were charged in connection with the 2023 death of actor Matthew Perry. The charges, announced at a news conference in Los Angeles, come after investigators uncovered an underground network of drug sellers and suppliers they allege are responsible for distributing the ketamine I that killed Perry. The defendants include 2 doctors, Perry's live-in personal assistant, and a person referred to by authorities as the Ketamine Queen.
Following Mr. Perry's death in October of last year, law enforcement, my office, and our partners represented on this stage began an in-depth wide-ranging investigation. That investigation has revealed a broad, underground criminal network responsible for distributing large quantities of ketamine to Mr. Perry and others. This network included a live-in assistant, various go-betweens, 2 medical doctors, and a major source of drug supply known as, quote, the ketamine queen. We charged 5 defendants in this matter. These defendants took advantage of Mr. Perry's addiction issues to enrich themselves. They knew what they were doing was wrong. They knew what they were doing was risking great danger to Mr. Perry, but they did it anyways. In the end, these defendants were more interested in profiting off Mr. Perry than caring for his well-being.
So, who is the ketamine queen? Jasveen Sangha, also known as the ketamine queen, is one of 5 individuals charged with drug-related offenses in connection with the death of Matthew Perry. Sangha, 41, is accused of supplying the ketamine that allegedly led to Perry's death. Sangha, who holds dual U.S. and U.K. citizenship, allegedly operated a drug-selling emporium from a flat in North Hollywood. Neighbors of the so-called ketamine queen have reported loud parties and frequent visitors to her residence. One neighbor, Jamie Duke, recalled hearing her door being busted open one evening, causing a significant commotion in the hallway. Sangha had reportedly been selling ketamine and other drugs for years. She is said to have begun supplying Perry, who was undergoing ketamine infusion therapy for anxiety and depression, with the drug through Eric Fleming. Fleming would then pass the ketamine to Perry's assistant, Iwamasa. Perry had allegedly developed an out-of-control dependence on unsupervised doses of the controlled substance. In the days leading up to Perry's death, Iwamasa was reportedly administering at least 6 shots of ketamine per day. Following Perry's death, federal agents and detectives searched Sangha's stash house and discovered approximately 79 vials of ketamine, along with around 1.3 kilos of orange pills containing methamphetamine, hallucinogenic mushrooms, and cocaine. Sangha was charged with conspiracy to distribute ketamine, maintaining a drug-involved premises, possession with intent to distribute methamphetamine, possession with intent to distribute ketamine, and 5 counts of distribution of ketamine. Despite pleading not guilty, she was denied bail, as she had already been on bail following a previous drug charge in March, and had allegedly asked a co-conspirator to delete text messages. Her trial is set for October 15th. If convicted, Sangha faces a maximum sentence of 10 years in federal prison. Dr. Salvador Plasencia, known as Dr. P, has pleaded not guilty to a charge of conspiracy to distribute ketamine. The 42-year-old is accused of sourcing ketamine for Matthew Perry from Jasveen Sangha, the ketamine queen, and instructing Perry's assistant, Kenneth Iwamasa, on how to administer it. Plasencia is also alleged to have sent a text message stating, "I wonder how much this moron will pay. Let's find out," referring to Perry purchasing the drugs.
He wrote in a text message in September 2023, quote, "I wonder how much this moron will pay." He also stated in text messages that he wanted to be Mr. Perry's sole source of supply. He wrote in a text message that he wanted to be Mr. Perry's, quote, "go-to for drugs."
Plasencia, who runs Malibu Canyon Urgent Care and is known as Dr. P among his patients, including Perry, is accused in court documents of showing Iwamasa how to inject the drug after supplying numerous vials of ketamine in exchange for cash. Federal prosecutors claim that while another supplier provided the ketamine that led to Perry's death, Plasencia's sales contributed to fueling the actor's addiction. The DEA echoed this sentiment, stating, "Matthew Perry's journey began with unscrupulous doctors who abused their position of trust because they saw him as a payday. Kenneth Iwamasa is Perry's live-in assistant. He has pleaded guilty to 1 count of conspiracy to distribute ketamine resulting in death. The 54-year-old admitted to repeatedly injecting Perry with ketamine without any medical training, including on the day of Perry's death. Federal prosecutors consider Iwamasa the least culpable, believing he was not involved in drug dealing but was simply carrying out his duties as an assistant. They suggested that Iwamasa may have administered the drugs out of fear of losing his job, noting, "If your boss is a drug addict and you want to keep your job, maybe you might do it for that reason." Iwamasa had been Perry's assistant since 1994 and lived with him. On the day Perry died, Iwamasa administered 3 doses of ketamine. first at 8:30 a.m., then again at 12:30 p.m., according to his plea agreement. About 40 minutes later, Perry asked Iwamasa to prepare the hot tub and instructed him, "Shoot me up with a big one," as detailed in the plea agreement. Eric Fleming, an acquaintance of Matthew Perry, has pleaded guilty to 1 count of conspiracy to distribute ketamine and 1 count of distribution of ketamine resulting in death. Fleming, 54, admitted to supplying Perry's assistant, Kenneth Iwamasa, with the ketamine that ultimately led to Perry's death. Fleming has a background in the entertainment industry. He directed the 1999 children's fantasy comedy My Brother the Pig, featuring Scarlett Johansson and Eva Mendes, and the road movie Tyrone, starring Coolio and Kevin Connolly, who later gained fame on Entourage. As a producer, Fleming supported the first season of the reality show The Surreal Life, which included stars like Corey Feldman, Gabrielle Carteris, Vince Neil, and MC Hammer. He also co-founded a production company called Rich Hippie with Sidney Holland, though the venture was unsuccessful. Dr. Mark Chavez, a 54-year-old physician from San Diego, has agreed to plead guilty to 1 count of conspiracy to distribute ketamine. In his plea agreement, Chavez admitted to selling ketamine to Dr. P., Dr. Salvador Plasencia, and obtaining it through fraudulent prescriptions and false representations to a wholesale ketamine distributor. This ketamine ultimately contributed to Matthew Perry's deepening addiction, leading to his fatal overdose. Indictment documents reveal that from September through October 2023, Chavez supplied Dr. Plasencia, a contact of over 20 years, with vials of ketamine and conspired with him on pricing and inventory. On October 2, 2023, Plasencia texted Chavez, "If today goes well, we may have repeat business." Chavez responded, "Let's do everything we can to make it happen."
Sought treatment for depression and anxiety and went to a local clinic where he became addicted to intravenous ketamine. When clinic doctors refused to increase his dosage, he turned to unscrupulous doctors who saw Perry as a way to make quick money.
They knew what they were doing was wrong. They knew they were putting Mr. Perry at great risk, but they did it anyway. In March 2023, Dreamscape Ketamine in Mission Valley introduced Chavez as an owner in a Facebook post. The business was mentioned multiple times in court documents, detailing how Chavez deceived ketamine wholesalers by using his connection to Dreamscape Ketamine to obtain the drugs that eventually ended up with Perry. Chavez's LinkedIn profile also lists QC Kinetics, a non-surgical regeneration clinic with locations in Torrey Hills and Hillcrest. Additionally, Chavez created a product called Gravity Ball. A resistance-based medicine, Gravity Ball, is designed to be the world's first and only grip-free resistance exercise device, targeting small secondary muscle groups, tendons, ligaments, and joints for long-term fitness and an active lifestyle. He is featured in several educational videos, promoting himself as a health coach and medical concierge. Despite his involvement in Perry's tragic case, Chavez's medical license remains active according to the Medical Board of California. It's pretty wild that Matthew Perry died at 54, and now Dr. Mark Chavez, Eric Fleming, and Kenneth Iwamasa, all of whom are accused in his case, are also 54. Isn't that strange? In closing, the chain worked as follows. Dr. Mark Chavez, after obtaining ketamine through fraudulent prescriptions, sold it to Dr. Salvador Plasencia, known as Dr. P. Plasencia. He then sourced additional ketamine from Jasveen Sangha, the ketamine queen, and instructed Perry's assistant, Kenneth Iwamasa, on how to administer it. Iwamasa, who had no medical training, also received more ketamine from Eric Fleming, an acquaintance of Matthew Perry, then repeatedly injected Perry with ketamine, including on the day he died.